As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 177, and it's one of our prestigious Patreon poll winning episodes. Every month, our listeners over on Patreon get to vote on a bunch of games they want to hear episodes about that I haven't played, and then whoever wins the vote, I will play, and then I talk about playing it. You see how you get how it works. And Luigi's Mansion, the GameCube launch title from 20 years ago, was October's Patreon poll winner. So I bought it, I played it, and as I explained about 15 seconds ago, we're going to talk about it now. And now, prior to playing Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube, the only Luigi's Mansion I played was the number 3 from the Nintendo Switch last year, and I fucking loved it. Love that fucking game. I think it's absolutely superb. So I was really, really excited to see where the series started and get to play the first one. I was really pumped when this game won the Patreon poll, and I wanted to see, like, did I miss out on anything by not playing this one back in the day? And it turns out, yeah. I fucking did miss out. This game is spectacular. Luigi's Mansion is fucking brilliant. It's really, really good. As you're going to hear on this week's podcast, it's not perfect, but it's very, very close. It's just a great fucking video game on a great fucking console. The GameCube is the hero that we didn't know we needed back in 2001. And my buddy and fellow stand-up comedian Darren makes his return to the show this week. You may remember him from the controversial Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage episode from a couple of months ago. And we spent an hour or so going over the ups and downs of Luigi's Mansion, not only as a game, but we also got into the choice of making it a launch title for the GameCube instead of launching with a standard Mario game. It's a very odd decision that on the surface doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but we'll get there in just a minute, because speaking of odd decisions that don't seem to make a lot of sense, it's time for yet another edition of the Remember the Game infamous intro. Dun, 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 dun. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard. Consider this your warning. Our intros are a little beefy. They're kind of long, but they're not. It's not shitty. It's not boring. They're like it's like the previews at the movies, and sometimes the previews are actually better than the movie themselves. I fucking love watching the previews at movies. And I'm like, I always finish my popcorn by the time the previews are done. And then I'm stuck for like a 2-hour movie with nothing but fucking like picking through the kernels, looking for little pieces of popcorn and drinking my pop. Anyway, we have merch. We have all kinds of merchandise. You can get hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, blah, 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 blah. It's all rocks badass art drawn by my man Joe over at 4545creative.com. And if you're interested in supporting the show, it is a great way to do it. You can check out all our merchandise at rememberthegamepodcast.com. And of course, if you don't like clothes, you can always support us on Patreon. And that's a great way to support us this month, because don't forget, for the month of December, 50% of my Patreon is getting donated to my 24-hour charity stream on December 18th and 19th. We're raising money for the Stollery Children's Hospital here in Edmonton. It's a very important hospital to the entire province of Alberta. Kids come from all across Alberta to make use of this hospital. So I'm really excited about the fundraiser. So if you've been thinking about signing up on Patreon, checking out the extra podcasts, this is the time, because not only are you going to get a ton of extra podcasts and stuff, but you're going to be thinking of the children, much to Helen Lovejoy's relief, because it's only going to cost you $2 a month to get started. And for that $2 a month, you get 2 additional podcasts every week. You're going to get my gaming discussion show Expansion Pass every Thursday and my gaming news podcast Game Patch every Friday. You also get instant access to over 150 bonus podcast just sitting there in the archives waiting for you. Every week on Game Patch, I just look at the biggest gaming news. I sprinkle in my profanities and opinions and stuff like that. Expansion Pass is a different show every week. I do game rankings. I look back at characters, consoles. We do some comedy episode. We do game reviews. I was just talking about how the GameCube is the unsung hero from 2001. Just a couple weeks ago, we spent an entire episode of Expansion Pass just talking about the GameCube. And this past week on Expansion Pass, I ranked the Halo campaigns. It was pretty spoiler free. If you haven't played them yet, I'm not going to ruin anything big for you, but I figured Halo Infinite's dropping this week, so I thought I'd let you know what I think of each campaign in the Halo series leading up to Halo Infinite, and the feedback on that episode has been pretty solid, which is nice. And as is becoming tradition during the intro here, this is a sneak peek of last week's Expansion Pass, ranking the Halo campaigns. I would put the game that I have ranked at number 5 all alone in the B tier. And that is the original Halo Combat Evolved, the game where everything fucking started. I think it's better than Halo 4 and Halo 5. I don't think it's as good as Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and Halo Reach, as you're about to hear, because those 4 games are in a tier of their own for me. Those 4 games together are all collectively the A tier, which should be a testament to how good the series is when over half of the games in the franchise sit at my number 1 like top tier. That's how much I like this franchise. But number 5 on my list is Halo Combat Evolved. And I didn't have much trouble putting it in there. Like, it's a super important video game. We already talked about this. The way that it kind of set the table for first-person shooters on consoles, and it obviously set Xbox up for success. And it introduced this franchise, which, whether you like Halo, you don't like Halo, you've never played Halo, you don't care about Halo, Halo is one of the biggest gaming franchises of all time. So that was last week's episode, and for this week, I'm going to drop one of my patented spoiler-free reviews. I recently finished playing Resident Evil Village, and I know it's a game that released back in the spring, but it still dropped this year. It's a Game of the Year contender. I finally got around to playing it, and I have some shit to say, so I will be reviewing that on Expansion Pass this Thursday. Spoiler-free, I won't ruin anything for you. So again, $2 gets you instant access to those, plus old podcasts, plus 2 new ones every week, plus access to our Remember the Game Discord, the chance to vote in our Patreon poll, which is running until Friday. It's coming down, it looks like, to Sly Cooper and Sonic Adventure 2. They're neck and neck, so votes count until Friday. You can also submit comments to be read on all of our podcasts. You can DM with me, and you get a shout out and get to hear me mispronounce your name like I'm about to do to both of these people, and I am going to fuck some of these names up. But a huge thank you to our newest Patreons: Travis Renberg, Christian McClelland, Nicholas Chaffee, Richard Chewins III, Marcus DeBrune, Dagger Disaster, Spencer Zatmary, Juris Dr. Mario, Alex Dimitri, Vaughn, Vince Fahey, Impasse, Jordan Salm, Jacob Adams, Burnout Doug Kenny, Kyle Swift, Andrew Barrett, Eric Amundsen, Scott Graham, Tyler, Brad Levin, Aaron Kedvis, and Kendall Nugent. Thank you all so much. Welcome to Remember the Game Industries. And if I fucked up your name, wear it like a badge of honor, because I only screw up the names of people I like. That's why I get fucking No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to. No, all right. Anyway, patreon.com/remember the game. Thank you all so much. And again, just before I get into the gaming stuff, if you hit up rememberthegamepodcast.com, you can see how you could support the 24-hour stream I have coming up if you're interested. You can donate. Your donations are tax deductible. And anyone that donates at least $20 will be entered into draws to win either a game of their choice, some Remember the Game merchandise, and someone is going to win a chance to be my guest on an episode of Remember the Game. So there you go. So you can find all that information at rememberthegamepodcast.com. I'm hoping to raise $10,000 for the Stollery Children's Hospital here in Edmonton. It's a cause close to my heart. Really looking forward to that stream on December 18th and 19th. So there you go. Good enough. That's enough blowing me. Let's blow some of you by blowing in the cartridges. It is our opening segment here on the podcast. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always. And we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge.
He blows all right. He blows big time.
That's it, honey. Get into the spirit.
Let's blow. And our first blower this week is Burnout Doug Kenny, who wrote in and said, "Love the content, Mr. Blank." That's a cool band name. Can I use that? Yes, you can. You've gotten me through some long night shifts since I found your show last week. Thank you for that. I was wondering if you have any familiarity with James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. And if you have, are there any games he's deemed shitty that you think rules? Thanks in advance for reading, and I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good, Kenny. I hope you are as well. It sucks that you're a burnout, but it's Burnout Doug Kenny. That sounds like the premier fucking shitty fuck Jason Kenny here in Alberta. But anyway, I absolutely know who the angry video game nerd is. I have had some people ask me if he was like an inspiration for me when I got started. Not really. I watch his stuff. I enjoy his stuff as a gaming fan, and as just a comedy fan. He's a very talented guy, really fucking creative. But like, I didn't set out to start Remember the Game to like spoof him. Like Angry Adam is like, that was kind of a generic creation that popped up around the Echo the Dolphin episode. Like I've never tried to like spoof the angry video game nerd or anything, but I absolutely enjoy him. And I agree with most of the shit that he says. One game, and it's from like the vintage days, was he shit on Ninja Turtles, the original TMNT on the NES. And I think that game is fucking outstanding. So I disagree with him on, it's hard as fuck, but I don't think it's bad. I disagree with him on that. But I absolutely know, I've actually reached out to him a couple of times. No replies. I get it. He's like the biggest gaming content guy on the internet, or one of, or he was. But maybe someday, if we keep growing this little weed of ours, we can collaborate. We'll have Angry Adam and the angry video game nerd yelling at each other. That could be fun. Thanks, Doug Kenny. I'm glad that you're digging the show, my friend. Makeshift Money wrote in on Patreon and said, "Can we call you Uncle Blanky?" No. Strife89 wrote in, shout out to anyone that gets that reference, and said, "Were there any cartridges in particular you remember having to blow the most? Also, what's the proper form for blowing a cartridge so as to minimize the number of blows? My experience with blowing was specific to the Nintendo 64 and Game Boy, so I figured with your additional years of gaming on the NES and SNES that your mastery of blowing far exceeds my own. Hope you can shed some light on this for research purposes." Strife, I have been blowing since I was a little kid. Do with that as you will. I can't imagine blowing in Game Boy games. They're so like, I'm an asthmatic. I feel like a Game Boy game would be the right thing for me to blow in, because it would just be like, and you're done. And it's been pointed out, listen, several people have wrote in about this in the past. I'm fully aware. You're actually not supposed to blow in your cartridges. It's not going to accomplish anything. My understanding is your best bet to clean those little boards that stick out of the cartridges is like a Q-tip and like some rubbing alcohol or something. Don't fucking yell at me if I'm wrong. I don't have any of them. I don't do any of it anymore. But when we were kids, we all blew in the cartridges all the time. That's what we do. I don't ever remember having to blow in my Super Nintendo or Game Boy cartridges. It was all about the NES. That's what I remember having to blow in the most by a mile, was the NES. But then we also had a Game Genie, and I found that if we put the game on the Game Genie and then put it in, it didn't seem to fuck us around as much. But yeah, I don't ever really remember having to fuck around with my Super Nintendo games, or my Game Boy games, or my Nintendo 64 games. It was just the fucking NES. And it just, everyone remembers just fucking over and over, and then you put it in, put it down, hold the button, it doesn't work, or it does work, and then it glitches out right after the title screen starts loading up, and you try again, and you try again, and fuck. I feel like maybe that's how I got asthma, was just the constant breathing in and blowing into these cartridges and sucking the fucking microbiotic microchips into my fucking lungs or something. I'm sure it's Nintendo's fault, but I can't prove it. Punk Rock Geek wrote in, and said, "Hi Adam, you keep on saying that you love really hard retro games. Have you ever gave the Hotline Miami franchise a try? If not, I strongly recommend it. I think it'd make a real good episode on the show." I absolutely have, Punk Rock Geek. I want to So on the Patreon exclusive, on the Expansion Pass podcast, I've done 2 mini indie review episodes where I took 3 indie games that I didn't think could stand on their own for like a full review and just kind of give a quick rundown. And I want to say that I covered Hotline Miami in one, but maybe I didn't, but I meant to. I haven't played Hotline Miami 2, but I did play the original Hotline Miami, and I fucking loved it. If you guys have not played these games, they're available on everything. I played it on the Vita, actually. And they're like, they're almost set in like a Grand Theft Auto Vice City like time, I think, but it's like a top-down retro looking game where you're basically just going from like building to building, killing everybody, but like they're all walking around. As soon as they see you, you're fucking dead. Like it's really, really quick. It's a lot of trial and error. You go in over and over and over again and figure out how to do it. But it's one of those really difficult games. It's sweet because when you die, it instantly loads you back up and you try again. It instantly loads you back up and you try again. And I love the original Hotline Miami. I got to get around to playing the second one eventually, but I fucking love Hotline Miami. That's a great fucking game. The Mustard Tiger wrote it. I love that reference. Wrote in and said, "Greetings, Adam. Now that we've got another semi-Mario themed episode, I can finally ask you this question regarding some forgotten games released around this era. Have you ever played the Super Mario Advance series? And what are the chances we get an episode about those games? If you don't know, they're a series of 4 games for the GBA, which remake Mario Bros. 2, Mario World, Yoshi's Island, and Super Mario Bros. 3, respectively. The remakes include updated graphics, save files, voice acting, and bonus games. There's probably not enough meat on the bone for each game to warrant their own episode, but it might make for a good one-off podcast to compare the originals versus the remakes. Thanks for reading and keep up with the excellent content." Thanks, Mustard Tiger. I have not actually played any of those. I didn't play a lot of GBA. I've pointed that out in the past. I know the 2 consoles I get the most requests for us to cover more games from are the PS2 and the GBA. And that's just from the same era as the GameCube and the Xbox. And if I was gaming at that era, I was playing the GameCube or Xbox, but I wasn't playing a lot of games, period. So there's a ton of GBA games I missed. There's a ton of PS2 games I missed. And I didn't play any of those because I kind of just assumed, like, well, I love all 4 of those games. I kind of just assumed that they were just portable versions of the games that I'd already played a billion times. So I haven't played any. Maybe at some point I will. Yeah, I won't lie to you though. I always just kind of assumed that all they were just handheld versions of the 4 games and I've played all 4 of those games a billion times. We've covered all 4 of those games on Remember the Game. But yeah, I just assumed the handheld ones were just ports. So I have not played any of them. But if you say they're worth it, people are telling me they're worth it. Maybe at some point I will track them down and give them a chance. Joe Kirby wrote in and said, "I was listening to the Halo podcast, and you were talking about playing as Master Chief and as the Arbiter. From the sounds of it, people grumbled about it, and it made me think of the blow-up over switching between Abby and Ellie in The Last of Us 2. Just wondering if you plan on touching that dumpster fire in depth in the future." So I'm not sure, Joe, if you mean that it's a dumpster fire that you switch between Ellie and Abby and Last of Us 2 is a dumpster fire, or if you mean that the controversy around the switching is a dumpster fire. But we actually have 2 episodes of Expansion Pass dedicated to The Last of Us Part 2. One is a full-on spoiler cast, and one is a spoiler-free review. I never do that. I usually do spoiler-free reviews and tack a short spoiler cast on at the end, but I had so much to say about The Last of Us Part 2 that I split it up. I gotta be honest, I don't think Last of Us Part 2 is as good as the original, but I adamantly disagree with people that think The Last of Us Part 2 was bad. I think Last of Us Part 2 was really fucking good. I think it went a little too long. And again, I don't think it's as good as the first one, but I think the first one is possibly the greatest video game ever made, in my opinion. I love the original Last of Us. But yeah, there's 2 full episodes about it in our archives, and I love Last of Us Part 2. I just don't worship it like I do the original, but I really like it. And yeah, anyway, I'll end it there because I know some people haven't played Last of Us Part 2 yet, and I don't want to spoil too much for you. Jock Nerdington wrote in and said, "Listening to the Crash episode, you said Sony doesn't have that one mascot of a character, and I was thinking maybe that helps them, seeing as they don't have to focus on one franchise." And I actually, okay, so before we get to letter time, I kind of agree with you, Jock, and we have talked about that many times. If you're newer to the podcast and you haven't heard it, I think it's primarily come up on our Crash Bandicoot episodes, but we've talked about how like Xbox has Master Chief. He's the face of Xbox, and Nintendo's got Mario and then countless others. But I think everyone would agree that Mario is the face of Nintendo. And I talked about how PlayStation has been the dominant brand in gaming for the better part of 25 years. And they don't have a mascot. Again, for a while, it looked like Crash Bandicoot was going to be their mascot, but it isn't. I mean, Solid Snake kind of looked like he was going to, maybe Final Fantasy VII, I guess, kind of. Lara Croft, maybe. Spyro. But like, and even now you look at it, and now you've got Kratos from God of War. You've got Ellie from The Last of Us. You've got Nathan Drake from Uncharted. You've got Aloy from Horizon. They don't have that one specific face that runs the place, to quote AJ Styles. And I've kind of like gone back and forth between thinking like, man, it's crazy that you don't have a mascot. And like, well, you've been dominating for 25 years. So clearly I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You don't need a mascot. And I kind of agree with what you're saying, Jock, is that it does, not only do they not have to focus on one franchise, but I think it speaks to the depth of their catalog. And I know some people are going to throw shade and be like, dude, every big PlayStation exclusive is a third-person action game. You're kind of not wrong, but I fucking love the third-person action games. And again, they dominated forever, so obviously a lot of people like them. So maybe it is a good thing that they haven't shoehorned themselves into focusing so much on one franchise. Maybe that is for the best. It's at this point, because they don't have that one single mascot, I think you're right. I think it's like Marvel. Like, I think if you were to look at Marvel, I would argue that Spider-Man is the face of Marvel, but you've got so many characters. And maybe PlayStation kind of looks at it that way, as they're just like, people can take their favorite character and kind of, quasi assign them the title of the face of PlayStation, but they're like, we've got tons of franchises. We have something for everybody. I think it does speak to their depth. I've said it many times, man. I'm a Nintendo fanboy, and then I play most of my multi-console games on Xbox, but I'll buy every PlayStation console just for their exclusives. That's what I buy them for. And I'll keep buying them for their exclusives because I think their exclusives are amongst the best in gaming. So finally, before we move on from blowing in the cartridge, it's letter time. It's letter time. And Call Me Watson wrote in, hey Watson, and said, hi Adam, I watched Arcane on Netflix last week, and holy shit, does it set the gold standard for video game adaptation. It's a new series based on League of Legends, and even if you're not a player of those types of games, this show is definitely worth your time. I've held for a long time that games will rise to be among the premier mediums for storytelling, with more adaptations like the upcoming Last of Us show for HBO, Netflix's Witcher, and the new Halo show coming out. Do you have any thoughts on if this is a good trend, or are there any titles you'd also like to see given the live action treatment? Also, watch Arcane. Take it easy. Hope your winter is fluffy, fun, snowy, and not skid off the road to a hot fire death icy. Oh, Jesus Christ. That fucking really, that was nice. You're like, I hope your winter is fluffy, fun, snow. And then it went to skid off the road to a hot, fiery death icy, which is kind of what winter in Alberta can be like. Okay, so I have not watched Arcane. I actually don't even know what Arcane is, but now I kind of do because you explained it. I do agree with you that I think video games have already rose to be among the premier mediums for storytelling. And I think you look at a game like The Last of Us, a game like some RPGs, Mass Effect, for fuck's sakes. I think there's some phenomenal stories told in video games, and you can interact with them while you play. And like video games are already a bigger business than movies or music or TV. And I think that I think they are going to continue if they haven't already become the premier medium for storytelling. I agree with that. Do I think it's a good trend to see all these shows coming out? Kinda. Like, I won't lie to you. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm excited about The Last of Us on HBO. I love that series. I want to watch that show. I'm also excited about the new Halo show. I'm going to watch that. I didn't care for Witcher. I didn't think it was horribly done. It just didn't interest me. I watched the whole first season and just kind of was bored, but I didn't think it was poorly done. So as long as they keep putting a little bit of effort into these things, I have no problem with it. You said, are there any series I'd like to see get the live action treatment? I already mentioned them once. I think Mass Effect would make a phenomenal like Netflix series or HBO series or something. So if I had to pick one, that would probably be the series. Fallout might be kind of cool as well. I have it in my head that they are working on a Fallout series, but maybe I'm crazy. But I could have swore that they were working on a Fallout series. But Mass Effect would be my number one. If you gave me like, a $30 million budget or fucking whatever these things cost to make, I don't fucking know. I have $17 in the bank. I don't fucking know. But if you gave me a budget and said, hey, pick a video game and make a live action series out of it, Mass Effect would be the one I go with. And so, yeah, it's, I don't want them to make too many. I don't want it to become oversaturated, and I don't want the level of quality to become so shit that people just start writing them off like it happens with a lot of video game movies. But I have no problem with it. As long as they're done well and there's some effort put into them, I have no problem with it. And I'm really fucking excited for that Last of Us show, which people keep messaging me to tell me it was filmed filmed in Edmonton, like 15 minutes from my house. And I applied to be one of the zombies and they said I was too dead looking. So there you go. All right. Thank you to everyone that wrote in. Dude, we're getting like 40 comments a week. I'm blowing in the cartridge now. So I can't get to all of them, but I keep trying. So keep writing if you're over there. I try to rotate in and out who gets on every week. So thank you all so much for people that wrote in. Let's change things up and let's get into our Smash Hits segment. Play one, remake one, erase one. And a huge thank you to Classic Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. Every week, I give our listeners 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, they can remake one as a modern game, and the third game is erased from time forever. And as always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a right one, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute. And I figured because we're talking Luigi's Mansion this week, which is one of the GameCube's best titles, I would take 3 more of the GameCube's best titles and pit them against each other in a fight to the death. And the remake and the play. Metroid Prime, Animal Crossing, and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door are our contenders this week. I always hope the poll is going to be close. I thought this one would be because these are 3 big games. Turns out it was the biggest blowout, I think, in the history of Play 1, Remake 1, Erase 1. Play Paper Mario, Remake Metroid Prime, and Erase Animal Crossing dominated with over 60% of the vote. And keep in mind, there's 6 different combinations of Play, Remake, and Erase. So out of 6 options to vote for, over 60% of people voted for Play Mario, Remake Metroid, Erase Animal Crossing. That's a fucking slaughter. I don't think there's an option on this show that'll get anyone put on double secret probation. Some weeks it's like, dude, if you erase this game, you're fucking insane. I can live with playing, remake, and erasing any of these. I will say that the majority is not the order that I would go in, but let's see what a few of you had to say here, and then I'll tell you what my answer was. We had 60 comments from our Patreons this week, which is unreal. So I just want you all to know I read all of them. Even if they don't get on the show, I read all the comments you guys send in. So please keep going. Best problem in the world for a podcast host to have is too much interaction from their audience to get to all of it. That's a great fucking thing. But I will get to a few of them right here. We'll start with Cody Poland, who wrote in and said, play Paper Mario because the game is basically perfect. I have 100% of this game, including the enemy encyclopedia, recipes, and all other mundane things on more than one occasion. Remake Animal Crossing because I can't risk erasing the series that has played such a huge part in shaping who I am. The original could use a couple quality of life improvements, and Paper Mario doesn't need the remake. And that means erase Metroid. This is hard because I never played this game and I really want to, but the other games are too important to me to erase. If I didn't have them, I probably would have ended up as weird as those Saturnians. Yeah, fucking Cody, if erasing Paper Mario or Animal Crossing would have turned you into a Saturnian, then you're right. Erase Metroid, say apologies to you, Samus, and move on. Do not join that fucking, don't drink the fucking Kool-Aid. Those Sega Saturn Kool-Aid fucking anyways. Flabbergaster wrote in and said, all right, not everyone's going to like this, I'm sure, but I'll play Paper Mario. It's the best in the series. Nothing else needs to be said. I'll remake Animal Crossing, but not how you think. The original had NES games you could unlock. I would add Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64 games, and make it have a good connection to the Switch Online service. Like, imagine having this game describing the type of games you like to play, and based on that, the retro titles put into your insert console online get a game catered to you 3 or 4 times a year. Holy shit balls, that would be amazing. Animal Crossing is an alright game in itself, but the original could use a facelift and reintroduce that mechanic. And then Metroid Prime has to go. It was okay, but we all know 2D Metroid wouldn't change if Prime never existed. So what caught my attention about your comment, Flabbergaster, is the idea that you could erase Metroid Prime and the 2D Metroids would be fine. And you're not wrong. And a lot of people prefer Metroid in 2D. As great as Metroid Prime is, a lot of people we could get rid of these and just keep the 2D Metroids and be fine. So that's fascinating. And that's an awfully ambitious remake for Animal Crossing too. I like the cut of your jib, Flabber. I like it. Stephen Parnell wrote in and said, play Paper Mario, as I've never actually played it, but I'd like to after hearing your podcast about it. Remake Metroid Prime and see where the new generation mechanics could take it with regards to a 3D open world set out like the 2D games, where you can only access certain abilities once you have the appropriate abilities, etc., or certain areas once you have the appropriate abilities, etc., pardon me. And then erase Animal Crossing because I find it to be the most fucking annoying time-based game on the planet, and it serves no purpose other than to annoy you and make you repeat the same fucking thing day in and day out. So I don't often read the comments where someone writes in and just says, fuck this game's stupid. But what made me laugh about your comment, Steven, is like, Steven has been interacting with me for a few months on our Patreon now, and Steven just seems like the kindest, most gentle fucking soul I've ever met. Just seems like such a great fucking person. And then comes in here and takes a game like Animal Crossing, which is just pure innocent fun, and is just like, fuck this game, it just fucking annoys me, fuck it, fuck. I love it. And we found a way to trigger angry Steven. Everyone should channel their inner angry Adam once in a while. I like it. Mizuru wrote in and said, this one is hard for me as I'm new to Nintendo. Having a Switch now, I have no connection to these titles. However, I would play Paper Mario. Those games have always been solid, and it's Mario. Metroid I would remake, and with Metroid Dread being so great, who could argue it? And that leaves erasing Animal Crossing. As much as I'm interested in trying it out, I've always had Rune Factory to fill my Animal Crossing hole with a storyline and fun battle system and unique characters in every installment. Mizuru, I would give my fucking left nut to be new to Nintendo and just get to play all those games for the first time. You're set fucking for about the next 20 years if you're just catching up on Nintendo games that you've never played with a Nintendo Switch and having Nintendo Online and having all those. Oh my God. Don't even worry about playing fucking Thousand Year Door, Metroid Dread, or Animal Crossing. Just go play some classics and just enjoy the fucking Stairway to Heaven. God, what I wouldn't give to be able to do that again. Where'd we go? Warzak wrote in and said, play Paper Mario. I have played the shit out of the original Paper Mario, and I've been itching to play the Thousand Year Door for a long time. I just haven't researched a way to do it yet. Keep this game in its original glory because I loved the OG Paper Mario, and I've heard nothing but praise about the Thousand Year Door. I'll remake Metroid Prime. I remember playing this game and enjoying it pretty well. Not as much a favorite to me as the original Super Nintendo Metroid, but a new facelift and update might get it closer to that spot. And then erase Animal Crossing. I've never played Animal Crossing, so this was an easy choice. Granted, I've also never played Thousand Year Door, but no way in hell am I erasing that one. I get the appeal of Animal Crossing and the social aspect to it, but I also see the enormous time requirements it has put on some friends, and I don't have that amount of time to dedicate to one game. And that's the kicker. I was a little shocked that so many people erased Animal Crossing, but I do think there's a lot of people that are in that position where they're like, fuck, I just don't have time to fucking play. Like, Animal Crossing is a fucking relationship. Like, that's a lot of time. So I get it. I understand that. And you're not wrong, Warzak. The problem, as you're about to hear my order of play, remake, and erase, the big issue with the Thousand Year Door is that it's just not fucking accessible anywhere, which I'm going to address in mine right now. I'm going against the popular vote this time around. 15% of you voted like I would, including Good A, who said I would play Metroid Prime. I love Metroid in this series. I have not played, and hell yeah, I want to play it. Please release it on the Switch. I would remake Paper Mario into a game Adam doesn't hate, and erase Animal Crossing. I've made it this far in my life without knowing what this is, and I could happily live the rest of my life without knowing. So for the record, I don't hate Paper Mario. I hate every Paper Mario after Thousand Year Door because I think all the rest of them have sucked. But I think the original Paper Mario and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door are really fucking good. And then Super Paper Mario on the Wii, I thought was like meh, like a 6, 7 out of 10. And then I haven't liked one since. But the first two I really like. It's like the Yoshi games. Yoshi's Island is a goddamn masterpiece. And then Yoshi just fucking went full Yoshi. But I will go in the same order as you, Good Day. Personally, I would play Metroid Prime because I didn't finish it back in the day. I did play it. I just didn't finish it, and I really want to. I remember liking it very much. I don't know why I didn't get around to wrapping it up. So I'm going to right that wrong and just play Metroid Prime. I'm going to remake Paper Mario. I replayed Paper Mario on the GameCube a couple years ago. It still looks great, still plays great. I like that game a lot, but I'm going to remake it. I'm going to pull back on the backtracking a little bit because you do backtrack a lot. And I'm more than anything, I'm just going to release it on the Switch so that everyone can play a good Paper Mario game again. So that's my remake is more of a re-release. And it's just put it on the fucking Switch so people can actually play it. Although I will warn everyone, the original Nintendo 64 Paper Mario is coming to the Switch Online right away. You should all play it. It's really fucking good. And then I'm going to erase Animal Crossing because, as I've explained many times, I just don't play these games anymore. I loved Animal Crossing New Leaf. I love Minecraft. I really like these types of games, but they just get their fangs in me and they ruin my life for weeks at a time. They ruin my productivity. So I refuse to I'll never play one again. Same as like people have wrote in telling me to play Terraria, to play Stardew Valley. I'm never playing one of those games. Minecraft, on a rare occasion when I just need to relax, I smoke a joint and I play Minecraft. But other than that, I'm not playing any of those games anymore because they just take too much time. I like them, but they're just too much of a time sink. Oh, and Tom Nook is a piece of shit. And I'm not going to give that motherfucker another second of screen time on one of my fucking screens. Lick my ass, Tom Nook. Thanks for playing, everybody. I appreciate it. What have I been up to over the last week? What have I been playing? And then we'll get into Luigi's Mansion. Mostly Mass Effect 2. It's basically taken over my life. Zach Shepard sponsored an episode. One of our Patreons sponsored an episode of the show over on Patreon and wants to cover Mass Effect 2. So I'm replaying it for the first time since it came out. And it's just fucking magnificent, you guys. I cannot wait to review this game on the podcast. God, I love Mass Effect 2. I also finished Resident Evil Village, as I mentioned. That'll be the review on Expansion Pass tomorrow. And that's it. I've pretty much just been playing Mass Effect 2 all week. Every chance I've had a time to play, I've been playing Mass Effect 2. Yeah, so that's it. Let's talk Luigi's Mansion. That's our main event this week. That's what you're all here for. I like to give you guys a chance to sound off on the game we're covering before I rant myself. And a bunch of you wrote in with some different takes. I'm going to share a few of them here. Stupid Monkey wrote in and said, I remember playing this on a whim. I don't know if I rented it or borrowed it or what, but I could not believe how fun and enjoyable a game about vacuuming could be. Also, Mario is a dick and makes older brothers everywhere look bad. We're obviously superior to our younger counterparts, and yet Luigi is obviously the superior of the two. I agree that this game is spectacular, and it makes a game about vacuuming way more fun than it has to be. I also agree that the older brothers are clearly superior to the younger brothers, as I am to my younger brother, but I disagree that Mario's a dick. Why is he? Luigi's the one with the fucking death stare in fucking Mario Kart. Mario's just a nice guy. He even invites his enemies to come Mario Karting. Luigi stares at them the whole time. Luigi's a cunt. That's the problem. Adam Stank wrote in. My Stank wrote in and said, I remember when I got my GameCube for Christmas. I received Luigi's Mansion along with All-Star Baseball 2002 and NHL Hits. Luigi was always the character that I selected in Mario-related games, and I was beyond excited to hear that he was finally getting his own game. Suffice it to say that I was disappointed. Where is my fucking platforming? The idea that the first game to prominently feature this guy was about him sucking ghosts up with a vacuum? I gave it about 4 hours of a chance, put it down, and did not touch it again until I traded it in to get Smash Bros. Melee. As an adult, I tried it again, still couldn't do it. What a goddamn snooze fest. I know people adore this game, but your stank does not fall into the category. That's an interesting take, Adam Stank. I get it. I understand why it wouldn't be for everyone. And as you're going to hear Darren and I get into, like, I'm shocked. I really like this game, but I'm also shocked that there's absolutely no platforming. And I think there are people that probably reacted to this game precisely the way you did. They bought it, excited to play a game with Luigi, and then we're like, what the fuck? There's no platforming at all. But I will say it's not the first game where Luigi gets his own game. That's that shit fuck Mario is missing, and we don't ever bring that game up around here. This game's way better than Mario is missing. Fuck that game. HornetBox69 wrote in and said, Luigi's Mansion is the only survival horror game I've ever enjoyed. That... I just like that comment because you're right. The idea that it's a fucking survival horror game with Luigi and a vacuum is good stuff. All the good names were taken, wrote in and said, I waited forever to finally buy and fire up this game because I wanted to be sure I was going to enjoy it. I fell absolutely in love with it. Amazing game that's fun for players of any skill. I agree. Part of the reason that it took me so long to get around to playing it was because it isn't a platformer. As you guys are about to hear, I was like, I don't know, do I really want to play a game where I'm just walking around vacuuming? Plus, I won't lie to you, when it comes to standard Mario games, ghost houses are among my least favorite levels. But this game isn't any of the shit. It's all just the fun. And Justin Vissers wrote in and said, wow, this is funny to see. My girlfriend and I just finished this game last week with no memory card. Love this game, a lot of fun. That's insane to me that you finished it without a memory card, but at the same time, it's only like a 6 or 7 hour game, which we're going to get into as well, which I think is one of its rare faults, is that it's just not long enough. But to play it without a memory card, that's fucking ballsy. I respect the cut of your jib, Justin. All right, good enough. Let's talk Luigi's Mansion. That's why you guys are here. Darren and I are going to share what we like and dislike about this game. I'm going to cue up some music. And when it stops, we're going to take you back to November 18th of 2001, the launch of the Nintendo GameCube and the launch of Luigi's own series, Luigi's Mansion. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. Let's go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs, and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. All right, so joining me on the blank phone this week, returning to the show, is a regular guest, a good buddy of mine. You may most recently remember him from our 2 Spyro the Dragon episodes, which, dude, the Spyro the Dragon 2 episode has kind of like lived on in infamy, because I've had people come in and be like, that game sucks. I've had people come in and be like, that game is awesome. People think you and I are crazy for our various opinions. It's a very surprisingly controversial game for a game as innocent as Spyro the Dragon. But joining me on the podcast this week is my pal Darren Morris. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fucking good. I'm pretty good. I can't wait to see the fucking tires or the storms that we kick up with this game if Spyro the Dragon 2 ruffled so many fucking... I can't get over it, Darren. It was... we'll talk about it more off the air.
Like, I don't think I said anything that was ridiculous. I don't know.
I don't think either of us did. But, like, I seriously, dude, I had people coming at me being like, that game is way better than that. I had people being like, that game sucks. You guys are crazy. Some people just made fun of the way we talked about Moneybags, that fucking grease bag that sells power-ups. Your boy there.
I think what it was the like ghetto Scrooge McDuck or something.
Yeah. I'm Moneybags. I don't want to call him that loud. Anyway, so this week we're talking Luigi's Mansion, which is in a lot of ways as innocent of game as Spyro the Dragon 2. But I have to expect us to get yelled at for this one too. Although I will say right off the hop, Darren, not that I hate Spyro 2, because I don't hate that game at all, but like I have very little negative. I have very few negative things to say about Luigi's Mansion. This game is awesome.
Yeah, no, mine is more nitpicky than anything else. But no, overall, it's a pretty solid game.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I only ever played Luigi's Mansion 3, the new one on the Switch last year, and I really, really liked. Did you play that one?
I haven't. I've not played it. I've only played the first one.
It's really good. Like, I was my first Luigi's Mansion experience, and I was impressed. I was like, this was a lot of fun. So then, ever since then, Luigi's Mansion, the original from the GameCube, has kind of been on like my radar, but it's been like a someday. And then it won our Patreon poll in October, which was funny because we ran like a horror themed Patreon poll in October, and a whole bunch of people were bounding for Silent Hill 2. Are you a Silent Hill guy at all?
No, I'm pretty. It's too scary, Adam.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. And everyone makes fun of me, and I'm like, no, dude, I'm a pussy. I don't like scary things. But
if you look back at all the games I've covered on your podcast, there's a pretty constant trend. They're all pretty childish.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good shit. And so I was pumped when Luigi's Mansion came out on top, because I was like, fuck yeah, this should be the least scary of all of these games. And it wasn't scary at all. But when I sat down and I went out and bought it for my GameCube and played it on my GameCube, and first of all, I'm shocked by how well it holds up. Like it like, I don't know what year did this fucking game come out? 2000,
2001, I think.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
2001. Yeah, it launched on 2000. So it's 20 years old. And
Yeah,
like
it looks so clean.
it really does. It looks like
Yeah.
a game that like it like Luigi's Mansion 3 looked better, but not by leaps and bounds. Like I was floored considering that this is a fucking launch title for the Nintendo GameCube. Like that's and like so that shocks me. We'll go down this road first. I'm making a note here. I don't want to forget to come back to this. Did you play this? So did you play this game back on the Cube, like when it came out back in its like heyday?
I did. I got it in a bundle, I think with Metroid Prime. Was that the one that was for the yeah. I got it in a bundle, and I never really got into it a whole lot at the time because like back then, scary. I don't know. But I honestly thought when I loaded it back up, I was expecting it to be more pixely. Like I was expecting it to look like Mario 64.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It was like, I was surprised how clean everything looks. Like I was shocked. I was surprised how well the graphics held up for this game.
Yeah, man. Especially when you keep in mind, like, and we just did an episode of Expansion Pass about the GameCube, so I'm repeating myself to anyone that listened to that, but like, the GameCube was up against the Xbox and the PS2 and the Dreamcast. Rest in peace, Dreamcast. But like the GameCube was facing some stiff competition, and I know there's a lot of people out there that love the PS2, and that's cool. And I know a lot of people love the original Xbox. I also love the original Xbox. But I'm like, I will fucking plant my flag in the ground and say like GameCube games have aged better than PS2 or Xbox games as far as as far as graphics and stuff go. Like,
absolutely. Like even if you look at like a game that might have similar graphics like a Ratchet and Clank, if you load that up on your PS2, it looks the Luigi's Mansion GameCube looks so much cleaner than any of those kind of like cartoony animated PS2 games do.
Yeah, and you've got to remember too, what's wild is that, like I said, this is a launch title. Like most consoles, the launch titles are great at launch, but by the end of the console's life, the launch titles kind of show their age a little bit, right? And it's particularly when a game is 20 years old and it was a launch title. But I'm sitting there playing this game and I'm like, dude, this was like one of the first games they ever released for this system. And I'm like, this is magnificent looking. Like, it's not to shit on future GameCube games, but I'm like, I don't even think they got much better look. Like, I think this is better looking than Mario Sunshine. Personally, I think it's a better looking game than Mario Sunshine. I think it's a better game than Mario Sunshine,
I think the dark colors kind of probably like help that as well.
You're probably right.
But like, I know I was talking to you a couple weeks ago about like, cause I mentioned it back then, I was surprised how good it looked. And like, I actually had to Google what the like specifications of the Nintendo Wii were, because I was like, is this like, this doesn't, if I loaded it up thinking it was a Wii title, I wouldn't bat my eye. I'd go, oh, okay, I guess that's what it looked like back then. So, but this was even like 5 or 6 years before the Wii kind of came out. And I don't think it looks a whole lot worse than like a Twilight Princess or something like that. So they did quite a bit with this game for the graphics.
Yeah, I agree. I think if anything, and we'll move on from this in a second, but just like, to me, it is just, and listen, before any of you come at me and be like, you're a Nintendo homer, I have the card in my wallet. Like, I'm a full-blown Nintendo fanboy. I've never hidden that fact. But having said all that, I'm like, dude, this is just like one more checked box to just the legacy of the Nintendo GameCube, which for my money is the most successful underrated console of all time. Because I think the Dreamcast is underrated. I think the PS Vita is underrated. Neither of them, in my opinion, came anywhere near the success that the GameCube did. But like, the GameCube was just such a great console.
I would say it's the most underrated Nintendo console,
without question. No question.
I'm a big Dreamcast guy. I had one myself, and I love the Dreamcast. But I feel like there are others that maybe are a bit more underrated than the GameCube is, because like they did sell a lot of units of it.
Absolutely,
it's just that they're competing with the like the PS2, which was at the time like the very most sold console of all time until I think the PS3 came out. We actually looked that up. The PS2 is still number one. Like the PS2 is probably never gonna get it because the DVD player fucking sold 3 billion consoles and that fucking. Well, that's what Sony did. Everyone's first. Yeah. Sony provided, or like the PlayStation provided everyone their first like CD player, their DVD player, their Blu-ray. Yeah.
It was my first DVD player, but
mine too.
But that's what I mean when I say that. Like to me, it's the most, because like it was a success. Like I love the Dreamcast too, but the Dreamcast Dreamcast, it's hard to call the Dreamcast a success when it was, basically killed Sega's console ambitions. And the PS Vita is the last handheld Sony console, and I love the Vita, but it didn't succeed. Whereas like I feel like the GameCube succeeded, but despite the fact that it was a success, I still feel like it's underrated. It's just I feel like the Dreamcast should have succeeded, whereas the GameCube did. I just think more people should have talked about the GameCube that did. Like I think now there's a huge interest in the GameCube. I think now people are like, dude, that was a great little console. But back then, I think a lot of people chalked it up as like the children's system,
Well, I was just going to say that because I think back then that was kind of when you're getting the switch from like video games are for kids to like more of the Grand Theft Auto, the Halos, all those types of things started to blow up. And I think everyone was going crazy about being in love and excited with those games. They kind of looked at the Nintendo as like, oh yeah, well, I mean, maybe if I was like 5, I'd take the GameCube. But I think people have a bit more appreciation for that type of game because these open world first person shooters, they get kind of dull and boring and repetitive after a while. And then you look back at the GameCube and it's like, there's a lot of titles on there that are quite unique.
And okay. And that's where I wanted to transition to, because when I said that the Luigi's Mansion was a launch title, and I mean that in a great way, in the sense that I'm like, dude, this is a spectacular looking launch title. But I also think, and again, we're not just going to talk about the GameCube's legacy. We're going to talk Luigi's Mansion. If any of you listen to this are interested, there is one of the episodes of Expansion Pass we just did in the last few weeks was all about the Nintendo GameCube. So you can find that. Actually, I'm going to sneak in a Patreon plug in the middle of it's at patreon.com/rememberthegame, $2 a month. I had to get it in there. But anyway, I'm a businessman. As great as this game looks as a launch title, Darren, I'm also very, very shocked that this was a launch title, because your launch library goes a long way to how, winning people over with your console and stuff like that, particularly when it's the Nintendo GameCube and you're up against the fucking behemoth that was the PlayStation 2. And this was the first Nintendo console that didn't launch with a Mario game. And that's a fucking... It's not that Luigi's Mansion is bad by any stretch. I already said it once. I'll say it again. I think this is a better game than Mario Sunshine. But I'm floored that they went with this as opposed to Mario Sunshine as a launch title. Do you know what I mean?
I'll be honest. When I was like... How old was I when I got this? I was probably like 14 maybe. And I know my first thought was like, why isn't it Mario?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was kind of like, what the hell? Where's Mario? Mario's missing. Sorry, no, that's something else. I was like, where's Mario? By the way, this game could easily be Mario is missing, but they didn't want to go back down that road.
This could be Mario is missing the good version. Like this is what it could have been.
Mario's missing. Where's Mario?
Oh.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I had to get that in there. But it was like, I was like, why is this not Mario? Why is it Luigi? Yeah. So I was kind of like, this is his brother. Like, this is... Anyway. Yeah,
I thought that, too. I was 18 when this thing came out. And I was working my own... Like, I was working job... Like, I finally had my own money to buy my consoles and to buy my video games and stuff with. And I'm not going to lie to everybody, despite the fact... So, at this point, I had a PS1. And I was still a Nintendo fanboy, but PlayStation, like... I was curious. Like, PlayStation... I was interested in PlayStation at this point. And the GameCube came out, and for the first time in my entire life as a gamer, I had the money to buy a Nintendo system when it launched, and I didn't. And the reason for that was because the two launch games I remember for the GameCube were this and Star Wars. I think it was like Rogue Squadron or something. It was like a Star Wars game. And I didn't give a fuck about Star Wars in high school at all. I did not give a fuck about Star Wars. And I was like, I've kind of come around, but I could take or leave it. And then I saw Luigi's Mansion and I was just like, yo, like I like Luigi. Like he's, I have no beef with Luigi, but I was like, I don't like, what the fuck? Like, is it, maybe this isn't going to sound fair to this game. When you launched it with Luigi's Mansion, to me, the impression it gave me was Nintendo wasn't taking the GameCube seriously. Like it came across as like, here's a secondary character on and this is a secondary console. Does that make sense? Like that's how it felt to me. Especially when you remember that at this point, Halo's got Xbox. Xbox has Halo. Xbox has Master Chief. Xbox has got this big, badass looking fucking shooter. Sony's got the PS2 with its DVD player and Final Fantasy X and Metal Gear Solid and all the Grand Theft Auto and all these things. And here comes Nintendo, and it's like, well, we buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games. And they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're kind of going with like our our backup to launch this thing. It would be like if the Nintendo Switch launched with like fucking Kirby or like Star Fox or F-Zero. And I love F-Zero. I'm not shitting on those franchises. But you expect your launch to come out with like, if you're ever going to take your balls out and put them on the table, it's at fucking launch. And instead
like
it was
Switch,
like, it was this.
Like the Switch came out full blade with like Breath of the Wild, which was like incredible. You'd expect that type of top end thing for a launch title.
Yeah.
And also the other thing, I don't want to get too off topic with the other systems. You got to remember, like, I think the GameCube was the only one that didn't offer online.
Yeah, you might be. Yeah, because like the PS2, like,
because like the PS2 had online, they had like the connection that you could get for it. The Xbox had it inside.
Yeah.
So like they're kind of like dipping their toes into the multiplayer online thing, and the GameCube was busting out Mario with Luigi with a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, and that's the other and again, like, listen, everybody, I don't want it to sound like we're just shitting on Luigi's Mansion, because like I said off the top, I love this. Like, we're gonna get into the good in a minute. I love this game. It's not, I don't mean to shit on it. I'm just really, really flabbergasted by the decision that they would kick this console off with Luigi, because the other thing about this game, Darren, was I remember playing the demo unit at like Zeller's. That fucking ages me, but I remember playing the demo unit at fucking Zeller's when this thing came out, and I was like, it looks neat, but I'm like, this isn't, like, it's not even a Mario game. Like, there's no platforming. He doesn't jump. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're walking around like in a 5-minute demo when you play this, you're like, so am I like cleaning this house? Like, I'm walking around with a vacuum cleaner? Like, is that what the fuck? This is what you're launching? I don't get it. Like, and now again, I love this game. Love this fucking game. But it's such a weird decision though. So weird.
It was ballsy, but I guess maybe they just had confidence. They knew it was a good game, so they just like, yeah, put it out there.
I guess
they'll get over the fact that it's not. They'll get over the fact that it's not Mario. Just put it out there.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly what it was. So, okay, now having said that, I feel like we've covered the idea that they launched it with a fucking weird house cleaning Luigi game. Now that that's out of the way, I want to get into Luigi's Mansion and how fucking spectacular it is. Because Darren, I know that Mario is Missing has almost become like a meme around Remember the Game, because I hate that fucking game so much. But this game truly is what Mario is Missing could have been. Like, it is so good, and Mario is missing, and Luigi's going to save him, and it's awesome because up until this game, all Luigi had ever been was your little brother or sister, or if you were the little brother or sister, you played as him.
Player.
Yeah. You know, or maybe you used him in Mario Kart for some fucking weird reason. He fucking sucks in Mario Kart. Go ahead.
He's taller, so he gets the chicks. Luigi gets the chicks.
I guess that's
taller.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Yeah, he is
well,
tall.
why is Peach not going after Luigi? He's got that height.
Yeah, because he's with Daisy. I think I don't know. Doesn't matter. Fucking Luigi. But like, he'd always been just the secondary shit character, like, for lack of a better term. He'd always been the little brother, you know. And it was really, it's really neat to see him step. Like, God, I wish that Mario Sunshine had launched the GameCube and this had come out like 2 years in, because then I think people would have been like, this is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, back then people would have been like, this is sick. Like, Luigi has his own fucking game. But instead it launched, and I think a lot of I'm the older brother, and I was like, well, I don't want to play as like the little brother character. I want to be Mario. But they sit down and play it, and I'm like, dude, this is a fucking... Mario is missing. Luigi gets the chance. It starts to give Luigi some character, because remember too, he was missing from Mario 64. Like, right? Which to this day I still think is insanity. But like, he wasn't playable in Mario 64, and so you finally get him a game and give him a chance to shine. And this was when they started to give him that character of being like the scaredy cat, and you know what I mean? Like, he's just like, he's doing the like Mario, and like he's terrified all the time. And when I was playing through this game, Darren, like, I know now that he's like chicken shit Luigi, but I'm playing this game and I'm like, dude, how do you not like this guy? Like, he's so easy to cheer for in this game, you know?
Yeah. The Rudy of Mario.
Yes, that's exactly what he is. He's totally the fucking Rudy of Mario. I love that. So you go into the mansion, and like the first like 15, 20 minutes where they're setting the table kind of sucks, and it doesn't suck, but like whatever. But once you get a hold of the poltergust, pardon me, like you get a hold of the vacuum, shit gets crazy. And like, it's basically Mario, or it's Luigi Ghostbusters is what this game is.
You talk about the opening though, and one thing that I was always kind of like creeped out. Like, I know it's like a fringe horror game, like it's a kids horror game,
Sure.
we'll call it. And the thing that I found the creepiest or the scariest is like that 90-year-old baby scientist with a tooth.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this dude is for sure feeding Luigi to ghosts.
Professor
he's
Egad.
in on this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Professor Egad. He's fucking creepy
Yeah,
as shit.
Like the bottled bubbles glasses with like a single tooth. Like, I didn't know if he was 90 years old or like 4.
Yeah,
like,
if he's like a genius infant.
Taking care of Also, Luigi. So, I don't know if you're going to talk about it later, but did you want to talk about like the story itself?
Yeah. Let's do it. I love it.
So I feel like Luigi would be that dude that gets his identity stolen because he answers those scam callers.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I won a trip. Awesome.
Yeah, totally. It's totally the first
mansion.
scheme. Yeah. I never even thought of that, but you're right. Yeah, he got the dude. What if like all of us listening to this right now, everyone listening to this at some point has got an email being like, hey, a relative of yours left you millions of dollars, but you've got to do this to get it. What if like we all have a mansion? Luigi was just the only one of us that went ahead with it. Like all of us have mansions out there. We've just not pulled the trigger. And Luigi was like, I'll take a mansion. Sure. Fuck yeah.
Or let's say he does maybe a different Mario game, like he doesn't get his mansion, and then you have to spend the next 8 hours of your life building up his credit because he lost everything.
Collecting iTunes cards to pay off the fine that you have to pay these people or whatever. I never even thought of that, but you're right. It is such a, because this game came out before those scams were really like prominent or anything. And it's funny now to look at that and think that like, yeah, basically Nintendo, this was like the first fucking like scam email, and Luigi just bought it hook, line, and sinker. And like
where was Toad? Where was Toad to be like, dude, I don't think you won that. Like, he's like, no, I just got a call. I won a mansion.
Yeah.
Did you sign up? Did you buy a raffle ticket? No, they just called me. I got a mansion. Like,
they spelt your name wrong, man. Like it's like it says Louis. Like there's not even a G in it. And he's like, no, you don't understand.
And if Mario and Luigi just carpooled there, we wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah, they're like, Toad, you're just pissed off that you didn't win the mansion. Fuck off. But yeah, so then
sorry, I wasn't trying to get too off.
No, I never even thought of that. But it is totally the first fucking internet scam. So then he gets to this like mansion, and it's like haunted, and then he runs into the creepy Dr. Baby. And then Dr. Baby gives him the Nintendo version of the Proton Pack. And then he goes in and starts hunting ghosts. And like, what I love about this game is when you get like, it really, and I noticed it playing it, I was like, dude, they totally, like, there's Resident Evil in this fucking game. Like when you're going to like the doors, and then you're like I get that those are loading screens. Like when you open a door and then all it shows is the door opening. It's the same reason Resident Evil does it and everything. It's like a clever hide for a loading screen. But I loved it. I fucking love that idea that you go into these rooms and you can't move the camera at all. It's like a still set camera, just like Resident Evil. And you're going through this big mansion, just like Resident Evil. And you have to open doors and solve puzzles and figure like it is Nintendo's Resident Evil, but it's brilliant. It's such a brilliant game. Every room you go into is just so much fun to explore. And like I personally felt like, I don't know how you felt, but like every time I opened a new room, I was excited to be like, I wonder what weird fucking funky ghost is going to be in here. Like, what puzzle am I going to have to solve? You know, I love that sense of anticipation, you know?
As I was opening the door, I'm like, oh, I hope the lights are already on.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. And like, you go into the rooms and like, what I love about the Luigi's Mansion games, it's not even like, we'll get into the hunting ghosts in a minute, because I think the ghost hunting is really well done. I like how your vacuum can interact with just about everything in every room. Like, and like that, like the level of polish that goes into these games, and the way that you can like suck a tablecloth off of a table, but then everything else stays on there. You can suck, you know, clothes off clothes hangers, but the hangers stay there hanging, you know, or the shower curtain. And then there might be a ghost in the shower showering that like screams when you pull the shower curtain aside. And you never do anything with your hand. It's always with this vacuum. And the physics, like, I'm no scientist, so maybe someone else watches this, listen to this, is like, dude, the physics are totally fucked up. What are you talking about? But I'm like, it feels like it's accurate. Like, it feels like this is what it would feel like to suck up a shower curtain in my vacuum and then have to pull on it to try to get it to rip off of the bar and get, you know what I mean? Like, it's, and every room has stuff like that. Every room. It's really, really well done. Really polished.
I like how all the rooms kind of had their own different themes as well. Like there was the library, there was the I think my favorite one was the one with all the musical instruments. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And you could like play the Mario theme and stuff in there.
Yeah,
like,
you hit it all up. It plays out the Mario theme and like but yeah, no, I agree. I liked all the kind of how diverse all the rooms and stuff were as well, and how there is almost like a character that would match that room, whether it be like a bodybuilder or like a baby in like in a nursery or something like that. So
the big fat guy in the dining room with like the huge table full of food, and he's like completely ignoring you, just pigging out, like.
And there's just like waiters going around the perimeter.
Yeah. I like that. You're right. I like how every room interacts with your vacuum. I like how every room is different and has like a theme, and no two rooms feel repetitive. Even like separate bedrooms don't feel repetitive or anything. And then, to me, outside of Luigi, because again, I've really grown to just love Luigi. Like, I don't know how anyone could be a Nintendo fan and not love Luigi. He is totally Nintendo's Rudy. Fucking nailed it. I love that. But I like how to me the other star of this game is the ghosts, because the hallway ghosts I guess my only real criticism. Oh no, I have one other actually fairly big criticism that I'll get to later.
I think we might have the same one. Since you mentioned it, I think it might be the same.
I'm just writing it down so I want to come back to it. But one of the things that not bothered me, but like when you're just walking through the hallway and you're just interacting with like the generic like little yellow ghosts or blue whatever, they start to, after a while, because there's a lot is maybe not even a big enough word. Like there is a mountain of backtracking in this game.
And they respawn every single time.
And they're just a nuisance.
Enter another room.
Like they very rarely kill you. You don't really get anything from them, some money, I guess, but they just become annoying. And I just found myself trying to like run past them, but then they would do their little attacks and like throw the bowling ball or the bowling ball bombs or fucking whatever at me. And it did hit a point where I was like a little bit more, even if there had just been a little bit more variety in the basic ghosts, you know what I mean? Like maybe that would have changed it up, because it hit a point where I just was like, fuck off. Like,
one thing that I was kind of struggling with, and it's probably because I'm really bad at video games, Adam, but the thing that bugged me is that it was kind of hard to refill your health meter often. Yeah. And it'd be like, you'd be kind of like down in that 25, 35 range. And if those ghosts in the hallway could actually offer like a health reboot or something like that, I would have liked it. But I just felt it was kind of repetitive. And I'm like, oh geez, I don't want to die, or I don't want to lose a hit on my way to this next thing. Yeah. Just because of it. But like that was in my bad column.
No, I agree with you. And like near the end of the game, I think it's in the attic, in the top floor. Like one of the first rooms you go into, there's like a little treasure chest in the corner with like a big heart that gives you back like half your health. And it does come back fairly regularly. And I found myself going back to that a lot. But I agree with you. Like, if you're going to make me deal with these generic fucking cookie cutter ghosts in the hallway every time I walk through the hallway, at least make them drop hearts a little bit more regularly. I agree with that. So I found them I want to state, I don't really find the backtracking to be much of a nuisance, because the mansion is not very big and it's fun to explore. And this game almost has hints of a Metroidvania to it. Like you get a key or a new ability and you're like, well, now I can go to there and do this. You know what I mean? Like, I like that stuff. It was just dealing with the fucking ghosts all the time. Having said that, though, where I wanted to go is, as bad as those generic hallway ghosts are, pretty well every one of the big ghosts you have to catch, the painting ghosts, are awesome. Just about all of them are awesome, because the fights are so, like, basically you have to, like, most of the ghosts, to catch them, you have to blind them with your flashlight and then suck them up. But then when you deal with these big ghosts, sometimes there's a little bit more to it. You need to do something to lure them out. or
Yeah, like there's
whatever.
like a puzzle component. And I really like the kind of collectability of the portraits and how like all those, similar to the rooms, each one of those ghosts have its own personality and backstory.
Yeah.
Like there's that was, I think the butler was like in love with the piano player or something like that, and you had to try to open up her area. You needed to like get him first and stuff. But like I liked how all of them kind of like, they all looked unique, but they were all kind of made up in the same style for like kind of just what the artwork of it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But like all those different, whether it be like the baby, the twins, the mom and dad, the musician, the bodybuilder, whatever, they all had like their very own kind of personalities and
Yeah.
stuff.
And to me, that's what made them cool, because like at the end of the day, this game is fairly repetitive. You're walking around this mansion that doesn't really get much bigger, and you get to know the mansion like the back of your hand. And by and large, you're just trying to find ways to get to new rooms to catch ghosts. And once you figure out how to make a ghost appear, and then once you figure out how to catch it, because like I'm gonna go back to like the big ghost that's eating all the food in the banquet or in the dining room. Like you can flash your flashlight at him forever. He just completely ignores you and disappears. And you have to figure out what you've got to do to kind of get his attention. Or like you mentioned the weightlifting ghost. To get him to start really paying attention to you, you have to like use your vacuum to suck up a punching bag and pull it back, and then let go of the vacuum, and then the punching bag will swing over and hit him in the head, and then he gets pissed off and starts coming after you. And at the end of the day, once you figure out how to get them into a state where you can catch them, then it does become the same old wear their health down to zero and suck them up and catch them. But what keeps it from getting boring and repetitive is partially the puzzle you have to solve to figure out how to make them into a shape where you can catch them. And part is just, it's funny, like watching these fucking different, really cool animated ghosts do these normal things. Like it's like it never, despite the fact that you do the same thing over and over and over again for like 10 hours, I never found it got boring at all. Like I wanted to see what the next ghost was going to be, what the next one was going to be. And they're really, really well animated. Like the way they have that transparent kind of blue Ghostbusters ghost look to them. Like every main ghost you have to catch is just so much fun to deal with. It's like playing a Saturday morning cartoon kind of. I found it, considering that the game is so dark, and you mentioned that it's a really dark game, they find a way to still make it very bright and colorful at the same time. Which is really cool. Oops.
One thing that I thought was kind of cool, because like back then you didn't have a lot of like, I'm trying to think of like other like games that had similar thing like this. I really like the little Game Boy Color or Game Boy Horror.
Yeah, oh dude, that was such a rad touch. A Game Boy Horror was awesome. Awesome.
So like just kind of having to use that to kind of interact with different things, whether it be like, oh, I need to go into that little mouse hole, or oh, I need to identify the heart or whatever of the ghost sometimes beforehand to kind of interact and hear what they have to say, and they kind of have like a bit of a one-sided conversation on that. But like just kind of having that like little tool, if you will, just always there, it was kind of like a good plug for like other Nintendo products, because it was essentially a Game Boy Color. And I thought that was kind of cool, using that to interact to kind of find the boos and stuff. The boos, on the other hand, are something I wasn't as excited about, but just something I liked about it was that Game Boy Color horror thing.
Yeah, that I got a real kick out of that when I was playing it, because again, I didn't play this back then, so like that was a blast from the past for me to be sitting here playing this GameCube game. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, like you're like, almost every game gives you basically some kind of like, it's like your Pip-Boy from Fallout. Like everything gives you like a little central hub with your data and shit in it. And the fact that this one is a Game Boy, but then they went as far as to call it the Game Boy Horror instead of the Game Boy Color. Like the idea that fucking Professor Egad, the giant old mutant baby guy, like the fact, like to me, the way I interpreted it was like he had a Game Boy Color laying around and then just modified it to be this thing instead. And that's the shit. And this is the reason when I suck that Nintendo dick and I talk about the polish, this is a prime example. I'm like, that is just a little detail that really does nothing to make your enjoyment of the game more or less, but it just, the polish, and that they thought to do that instead of just giving you a generic item that does the exact same thing. I love those. Those are the little touches that Nintendo games have that I just get such a kick out of,
a little touch, or were you going to say something else about that? Sorry.
No, I'm good. Give her.
Oh, I was going to say a little touch I kind of like, and again, it's like, it's not as like out there for a game today, but if you kind of think about what was the previous standard for like a Mario game before this, it was like Mario 64 or whatever.
Yeah.
And just the fact that while Luigi's going around the mansion, he's kind of whistling that like theme song, or like, just like, I just loved it. It kind of like, just kind of gave a little bit more of a personality interactive thing with Luigi. Whereas like in old Mario 64, the only kind of noises he'd make would be like, whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like, so like just having like him kind of ominously whistling the theme song as he kind of shivers and trembles through the hallway, kind of showing his nervousness and stuff, I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's funny because you bring up Mario 64 and like we look back on Mario 64 now and like sure, Mario just going like whoop wahoo is basic, but like take yourself back to 1996 and you were like, holy fuck, that's what he sounds like because we never knew, you know what I mean? But then the GameCube is this is a launch title for your next console, and you took the sound effects and leveled them up. You gave Luigi a little bit of a voice, and the way that he like kind of hums the song and like to me the sound effects in this game are just as good as the graphics. Like I think the game looks great. And I think the game sounds outstanding, considering there's not a ton of music in it. Like it's not, high-pitched Nintendo music the whole time you're playing. Yeah. It never gets, it's again, never boring or repetitive. The music's always like, I won't lie to you guys. Like I play a lot of retro games for this podcast, and usually a lot of the time I will listen to like music or a podcast of my own while I play. Because after you've heard the music, you're like, okay, I know what the music is. But this game, like it adds to the atmosphere. It doesn't make it scary, but you feel for Luigi while you're playing with like the little sound effects that he makes.
I was driving today and the song is like stuck in my head. Like just those like tones.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, it really does. It adds another like, I remember being blown away to hear them talking a little bit on the 64, and this just added to it. It's a good touch. I love the sound of this game. I think it's as good as the graphics. I think, okay, so the two things left that I really wanted to get into were the controls and the booze and the collectibles. And
that's funny. I got both of those on my list as well.
Perfect. Okay, well then let's do the booze first, because frankly, that's my other criticism, and the controls I like. So I want to end on something good.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Okay.
Do you feel the other way?
I didn't like the inverted controls.
Oh, okay. Now, okay. So, all right. Okay, let's do the booze and then we'll go to the controls, because I agree with you on that point. But the booze. So when you start playing the game, and I don't mean like alcohol, like booze, like the ghost booze. There's 50 of them that you can catch throughout the game, and it's optional. You don't have to go catch all of them. But I'm the same thing as when I played Luigi's. Like I 100%ed Luigi's Mansion 3, and I was like, the fuck if I'm not 100%ing this game. And I set out to do it. And the thing is, what I love, Darren, you play a lot of games like I do, like the Spyros and those, the kind of collectathon games like Jak and Daxter and stuff like that. I love it when, especially if you don't have to do it right away, but by the end of the game, let me know at least the vicinity of the collectibles I'm missing, and then let me go find them, so that if I want to do a clean sweep, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. If I had to just aimlessly walk through this mansion until I fucking shook a box and the boo came out and I had no idea where they were, I never would have got all the boos. Like, give me, like, play hot and cold with me. Give me just an idea of where I gotta go. And I love that they do that, because you can find all 50 boos just because the Game Boy Horror, the light starts blinking to let you know when you're close to a boo. You know when you're in a room where a boo is, and then it plays the hot and cold as you get closer. I love that. And I like catching the boos, except for the fact that some of these boos have like the most health of anyone in the game out that isn't a boss. And
isn't there something like 300?
It's insanity. And you're in the middle, and like, so if you've never played it, I guess this kind of ties into the controls. You have to suck these ghosts up. And so once you get them caught in the vacuum, like imagine their tail, there's my voice crack for the episode. Imagine like the ghost's like tail is in your vacuum, and then you pull the analog stick away from wherever the ghost is going, and it's like a tug of war. And as you pull back on them, you drain their health, and when their health hits 0, you catch them. But some of these boos have so much fucking health, and they can go away, they can go through walls to get away from you. And that started to irritate me when I got down to like 4 or 5 boos left that I needed to catch. And you go, especially upstairs, where it's like 2 long hallways with a bunch of rooms on either side of the hallway, the fucking ghosts would like those fucking boos, you'd knock like 10 health off and then they would go through a wall. So then you'd be like, all right, well, chase him into the hallway, knock another 15 health off. And then he goes through the wall that takes him to the other side of that floor. So you have to walk all the way around, take
Sometimes
10 more
it wouldn't
health
even
off him.
Sometimes it wouldn't even be the same boo.
Yeah. And then it would be a different boo. And that was like, and the thing is like, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I get how to play the game. I 100%ed it. You can slow them down by pulling the analog trigger or the analog stick away the right direction from whatever direction they're going. But I don't think you can outright stop them. Like, they will go through those fucking walls and they become such a pain in the ass to fucking chase down, because you might knock like 15 health off of a 300 or 150 health ghost. You might take away 15 of his health, then he goes through the wall, and then it's like a 15-second hike to get back to him, and then you get another 10 health off of him, and then he goes back to the wall. That really started to wear on my patience after a while.
So the thing I didn't like about the boos is there's nothing in the game that tells you that you do have to catch a certain amount to progress the game.
Right. You don't have to get
Like,
all of them, but you have to get a certain
have to get
number.
some of them.
Yeah.
And there was a few times that I was like stuck, and I'm like, dude, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go. Like, I like all the rooms I'd been in were like, I had no new keys, no new leads on keys, no new leads on like the portrait ghosts and stuff like that. And I was like, I probably spent 45 minutes just wandering around until I realized I had to catch more boos to progress the story.
Right.
For me, it's just like, let me know if that's what it is. Like, have that little creepy Dr. Baby kind of be like, oh, you need blah, blah, blah more to blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, then I would at least know. So my issue with the boos wasn't so much catching them. My issue was just the not knowing at the time that I needed to progress the story.
Right. Like in Mario 64, it would tell you like, you need 8 stars to open this next door. And so you knew like, I don't need all the stars. I need to get 8. And yeah, there are a couple of points where you need to catch so many boos, but it doesn't tell you that. I get that. I was trying to clean them up as I went. So I always had enough. Like, I never ran into that. I just found it to be a fucking nuisance to have to chase some of them through the walls. And like, I'm not saying I want it to be baby's first boo catch. Like, I want it to be, put some challenge in there, because this is not the most difficult game you've ever played.
No.
Put some challenge in there. It was just the fucking nuisance. It was one thing if they would go through a wall into the room right beside me and I could just take the door through and follow them. But when they would go somewhere where I had to walk around an entire floor to get to where they were to keep trying to catch. And then, like you said, sometimes you get there and they're gone now. And I would just be like, you fucking assholes. Like, I was like, the problem was that I was like, I had like 46 or 47 of them. I was right at the end of the game. I'm ready to go fight the King Boo. And I'm like, well, I can't not finish this now. Even though I was like, I'm losing my patience and I don't want to fucking finish this. I should. But the fact that it tells you where they are saves you a lot of pain and suffering. So I like that. Before we get into the controls, one other thing that I thought was really, really cool. Like, that you're going to this mansion and Mario is there because there's the fortune telling ghost and you've got to find some of Mario's equipment and bring it, like his like glove and his fucking hat or whatever. Yeah. And you bring them back to this fortune telling ghost and then they tell you where to go next. And like, I'm down with all that. But there's one part in the game where you go back into the courtyard. I think it's with a courtyard behind the mansion, and you go down the well. And then you realize that like, you can't get through these, you like find this like secret entrance to this like basement dungeon and you can't get in there, but you see Mario like in the painting, like looking at you. And I just really, that's just another one of those little things that I just was like, you could have gone this whole way and not even found this. But the fact that they threw it in and you see he's down there now and you got to get down to him. Like, those are just those little things. Like, it's not I guess the point I'm trying to make, to repeat myself, is that like, I know you spend the whole game in this one mansion, but you never know what's around the next corner in this one mansion, that it never gets boring. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm always excited to see what's in the next room. Like what, like, or like, oh my God, there's a hint that Mario's here or stuff like that. I like that. I like that touch a lot. That's all.
Yeah. Me too.
Now, having said that, the controls, I like the mechanic of catching the ghosts. I like the idea that you have to hit them with your flashlight. It stuns them for a minute and then you can see their heart. And while you can see their heart, you hit the trigger, the vacuum starts sucking. And once you catch a ghost in it, like we've all been vacuuming and caught, a fucking, like a floor rug or something in the vacuum. That's what it's like, but you've caught the ghost in your vacuum. And then you just have to pull back from the direction they're going as to drain their health to 0, and then you can catch them. I'm going to get into the inverted controls in a minute because I fucking agree with you a billion times over. But the catching ghosts mechanic, I really, really like for the most part.
Yeah, no, I do too. Kind of like that, the way you put it before with the tug of war. Like, I agree with that. For me, I was going to talk about the inverted.
No, I just wanted to say, like, it's like you're trying to guess which way the ghosts are going to go while you're trying to suck them in, like the stronger ghosts. And sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating because you'll be trying to catch a ghost and maybe there's like 5 or 6 ghosts in the room and most of them can hurt you. And you're like, fuck, my only option is to either take some damage and bump into that ghost or let go of the ghost I'm trying to catch and go around them. And you're never going to let go of the ghost you're trying to catch because it's a pain in the ass to get them in the back to try to start catching them. So you kind of just have to take damage sometimes while you're catching them. And it's not bad. It's just like, I don't even know what I want for a solution because I wouldn't want it to not be able to take damage. But there were times where I was getting irritated because I'd be like, I just want to, like, I'd have a ghost down to like its final 10 health and I'd see like 3 ghosts closing in on me. And I'm like, fuck, just get this health to 0 before one of those ghosts bump into me. And sometimes it would and sometimes it wouldn't. But you were kind of just stuck with your pants down, hoping to catch these ghosts before the other ghosts bump into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't know what the solution would have been. It wasn't bad. It was very basic, but the catching was fun. That fucking the inverted analog, dude, that's my biggest gripe with Mario Sunshine as well. I don't understand why Nintendo fucking does this.
I don't understand why you don't have an option to choose.
That's all I want. That's all I fucking want is just, and the thing is like, listen, I'm fully aware that we're judging a game from 20 years ago. And so I usually try to have some leniency when it comes to stuff like this. And I'm like, well, was that a style, to sound like Grandpa Simpson, like, was that the style at the time? But I don't ever remember playing games that were like reverse inverted, like up and down. I can live with an inversion on it, but left and right, I don't fucking get. I don't get. And Mario Sunshine did the exact same thing. And like, there's no option. All you got to do is put the option in to reverse it. I don't understand that. I can't agree with you more, Darren. Fucking drives me insane.
The part I had issues with the inverted controls is be like, it wasn't so much when I was like, let's say wandering through the hallway and I had time to make an adjustment. It's like, oh wait, it's inverted, my bad. But in some of those like rooms where you'd get kind of bombarded by like 4 or 5 ghosts at the same time, I just start panicking. And before I knew it, I was like pointing the vacuum at the floor.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it would be I would have a hard time kind of shifting in between the, like, especially when it got a little bit more complicated, when you had those, like, whether you have like the water or the fire or whatever. Yeah. And it's kind of like a combination of having to, I am not, for anyone listening, I'm not good at video games. I'm really bad. Like, I get like ridiculed constantly about how terrible I am at video games. But like, I don't know if it's a combination of like that, but whenever I try to like, I got to use the fire first and I got to go to the vacuum, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh great, now I'm pointing at the floor again. And it's just like, it was a constant struggle I was having with that. And the only other thing is, as much as I said earlier that I liked the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Horror, what I didn't like was when it would shift, when sometimes you'd have to go into the Game Boy Horror to engage in with another way, whether it be with like a little mouse hole thing, or whether it be like to find the heart of someone else. You're still vulnerable to get hit while you're looking through the Game Boy Color. So it's like you're trying to shift around between inverted, up, down, left, right, whatever, and then you're trying to get the Game Boy Horror out, and then you're like, and then you get hit while you're trying to do like fumble through all the controls. So I think like my biggest issue is I never got used to the controls the more I played. I continued to go back to what I usually play with. And when I normally play video games like Splatoon or whatever, I'll be using sticks all the time. So it wasn't like a sticks versus motion issue for me. It was just like, I'm used to sticks, but just the inverted made it so difficult for me to try and like get through some of these levels there. Or some of these ghosts or stuff. Yeah,
it fucked with me too, because you have to hit most ghosts with like your flashlight at least, if not fire or ice stuff. To get them to appear. And that's the same thing as I'd get my flashlight out and then point at the fucking ground to be like, God damn it. And the thing, I did get better as I went on, but the thing is, and I went through the same thing when I replayed Mario Sunshine a couple years ago. I couldn't play anything else because I was like, I would kind of, and maybe some people listening to this can relate to this, but like I would almost let my fingers like reprogram themselves to play inverted. And then I'd be like, well, now that I'm used to this, I usually have 2 or 3 games on the go at any given time. And I'm like, I can't go back to another game until I'm done this because I've trained my brain to play inverted and I don't want to go back to uninverted. You know what I mean? Like I'm so used to this now. So I agree with you. And to be honest with you, like I found the mechanics of like how you could suck up like the fire ghost or the ice ghost or the water ghost and use them on other ghosts. I get that they were just trying to put another little bit of a layer of depth to like some variety to how you deal with the ghosts, but I did find that to be more of a nuisance than to be like an additional level of strategy. Like I just kind of found it annoying, to be honest.
The part I found annoying was I don't have the greatest memory trying to remember which ghosts need what.
Yeah, that was a pain in the ass.
Like, I guess usually they'd have the like a water source or a fire source nearby if you needed to use that one. But sometimes it'd be like I would see what looks like a regular ghost. And there was one in particular, for some reason, I could never suck up, and I just ended up burning it to death every time. And like I would never act. It was like plain white ones. It was like in this little what was it like this? It looked like this trophy room or treasure room or something. And there was like all these chests. I think it was the first room that you kind of interact with the fire, and I could never actually suck up those ghosts. So what I ended up doing was just like burning them constantly. And like it got rid of them still, but I know that's not how it was meant to be played.
What I would have even liked is if just like, because you only had a finite amount of like fire, ice, or water once you got some, and then you'd have to go back and get more to keep using it. And like, say you were using fire and then you hit a part where you needed ice, then you had to go find an ice ghost. It would have. I get that they were trying to give it a little bit more challenge, but like I would have preferred it if it had just been like, oh, you've unlocked the fire attachment. And then all you could do is maybe open the Game Boy Horror and change your poltergust to shoot fire and have an infinite amount while you're using it.
You collect like magic energy of like, if I'm using like a Zelda reference, like, you know how you have the magic meter. If you only had to collect a certain amount of that type of fuel, and the vacuum cleaner converts it to whatever you need it to.
Yeah, because at times it was just a bit of a nuisance to have to go back and like, fuck, I screwed up. I don't have enough fire. I got to go back and fucking get more fire. And like again, it's not game breaking. It's not hardly even a criticism. I just found it to be a little bit of a nuisance is all.
Yeah.
Quickly, I want to talk about the final boss. So if I'm spoiling anything for you, you might want to stop this now, but like it's a 20-year-old game and it's a Mario. I think everybody knows who the fucking boss is. Like everyone knows who the fucking boss in this game is. What I like about, or if you don't know, guess what? It's a Mario and Luigi game. And it's Bowser, but it's not Bowser. It's King Boo. It's just King Boo dressed as Bowser. And I really enjoyed the final boss fight in this game because I wanted Bowser to show up so bad. And then it kind of did. And the only qualm I had was that I died on that boss. Like I died on the final boss the first time because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do because it's, first time fighting a boss. And my brain went to Mario 64 because he's got his big tail and I have this vacuum. And I'm like, oh, dude, it makes total sense. I got to suck up his tail, spin him around. But then you don't. You have to like lure King Boo out of this fucking Bowser costume and then fight him that way. And it was a fine fight. But I'm like the whole game I've been sucking ghosts up by like their little tails and catching them. And now I've got this guy dressed as Bowser with his big tail. And the last Mario game, you have to grab him by the tail. So I was like, right? Like, does it not? I really, really thought it would make sense that I had to suck up like Bowser by his tail. And then it turned out you didn't. But not the end of the world. I like that he kind of shows up and it's not him, it's King Boo. And all that stuff was fine. I just was a little disappointed that it didn't have anything to do with his tail. That's all. I thought they were going to make that like a tradition,
I found it weird that King Boo looks like your everyday run of the mill Mario ghost.
Yeah,
but all the other ghosts look like big people.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, not a criticism. I just thought it was interesting.
No, I get it.
I do have a question that I think I told you before we recorded. I didn't get all the way to the end, but what's the deal with the money and gems? Like, what's the point of it?
You get a score at the end. The more gems and stuff you collect, the higher score you get. Like a D grade, C grade, B grade, blah, blah, blah. And that's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the only, I'm 90% sure the only buff you get from catching all the boos is you get like a big gem that like helps bump up your score at the end of the game. But it's not like there's any other, like that's all it is. I just wanted to 100% it because I was having fun. And the other reason I wanted to 100% it was I didn't really care about getting a really good score. I just wanted the 100% thing on my, like I wanted all the ghosts. it's not a criticism, but like this is not a long game. And that shocked me a little too. Like I want to say I 100%ed it in like maybe 10 hours, probably less. Like it was not a long. And the thing is like, I know that we all today talk, you literally brought it up during this podcast. Like we've all played the giant open world fucking like 70,000 hour games that we've all played a million of. It's nice to play a game. Like I've always said, I prefer quality over quantity. Give me a 6-hour masterpiece over a 50-hour run of the mill game. But when I was playing it, I was like, I was having a lot of fun, but I was like, I could have played 5 more hours of this. You know, like I wish there had just been a little, especially you got to remember that chances are a lot of people that bought this game got it as like, this was the game they got with their GameCube, and you potentially could have 100%ed it the weekend you got it. You know, a little more, that's all.
Also, I feel like back then, I don't know if it's because now that I'm an adult and I have disposable income, but when I was a kid, it would be like, if you had this game, this was the game you had. Like,
yeah.
Mom, Dad, can we get another game? No. Save your allowance.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. And like, and like Mario 64, dude, like fucking, like that was the launch title for the 64. And like, there was a lot of fucking hours of that game in front of you.
Yeah.
Whereas like this one, like even if you do everything, like maybe 15 hours and you're done.
Isn't there like a hard mode after that you can unlock?
I think so. But like,
but
I've always
pretty much the same game again, just with more difficulty or whatever.
Like I'm not willing to give a game a padded length when it's something big. Like if you completely rearranged maybe if like new enemies, new everything, but otherwise I'm like so like it's funny because like today I'm like, dude, short game is almost like a plus because I'm like I have too much to play. Fucking respect my time, keep it short and sweet. But like you said back then, if this was your game, it might have been a little bit like, especially if you were a Nintendo kid. And this is kind of a way to bring this about, you know, around circle and start wrapping it up is like Super Mario World. I can fucking beat Super Mario in like 3 hours now, like 100% it. But I'm like, back then that was huge. Right. And Mario 64 is a fucking massive game. But then you get this and you're like, well, this is like my launch title and it's not Mario and it's not platforming and it's kind of short. You know, and it's just, again, not a bad game. We're about to score it. I'm going to give it a really good fucking score. I'm just really, really surprised by the decision to come out of the gate with this. Really
especially
shocks me.
With a fringe horror title as well.
Yeah. Like I feel like this would almost, I feel like if you were to get this for like a 5-year-old, I don't know. I think they might find this a little challenging. Like, not that Mario 64 isn't challenging, but I mean, just to try to figure out what you're supposed to do. You know, considering
with Mario 64, like you could give it to a 5-year-old and they would be perfectly happy just wandering around the screen, jumping on things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it could be a little bit frightening for like a younger child still.
Yeah.
Like even though it's like not super scary, but I think it'd still be, if you're like 7 years old, this might be like a little bit on the creepy side.
Yeah. And I think it'd be very easy to get stuck early and just be like, I don't know where the fuck I'm supposed to go. Like, you know, for a kid, it just, not criticism, just what an odd, just one of the weirder choices Nintendo's made, in my opinion.
I think the thing with our criticism, or with mine anyway, is it's like it is a really good game.
Goddamn right.
But you see these spots where it's kind of like, I don't know, give me non-inverted controls would make a huge difference. Or I don't know, make it so I don't have to catch a ton of boos or what. Like I feel like it's a really good game, and I'd say it's probably one of the best titles on the GameCube.
Me too.
Like I'd probably top 3, top 5 on the GameCube. I really liked Wind Waker as well, but like I'm just kind of thinking like there's just some things that kind of take away from it, even though it is a great game. It's like you kind of look at it as like a missed opportunity. Like, oh, it could have been so perfect. Like they wouldn't have had to do a ton to make it the perfect game.
No, agreed.
Whereas
but it's still really good. And on that note, so if we were going to score like to me, the easy way to score this is out of 50 because there's 50 boos. And that's a reasonable number. It's not one of my weird fucking 3,496 numbers. Darren, if you were going to score Luigi's Mansion on the old GameCube out of 50, what would you?
50, probably like. Thing is, I'm probably actually scoring it better today than I would have been if you asked me like a long time ago.
Yeah,
because I'm kind of including how well it aged in the score as well.
Yeah,
I'd probably do like a 45.
Yeah, dude. You know what? It's funny. I was gonna say that exact same thing. Like sometimes it's hard to score a retro game fairly because you're like, well, maybe by today's standards, it's a little rough, but back then I get it was really good. This game's almost the opposite. It was good back then, but I'm sitting here playing it now. And like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I would have bought it for my GameCube. I spent $50 to buy it, which is, basically like buying a fucking new game today. And I played through it and I'm like, dude, I just bought Far Cry 6 for my Series X. And I'm like, I feel like Luigi's Mansion was like buying a modern game today. I bought it. I paid, practically full price, no regrets. I'm like, that was a quality video game. Like, I'm going to give it like I mean, fuck. And the shortness is a plus to it now, which would have hurt it 20 years ago. Like, I'm tempted to give it in that 47, 48 out of 50. Like this, I have no major criticisms of this video game. A couple little things that I wish they'd changed, a couple things that I think is weird, but there's, objectively nothing wrong with this video game. It is really, really well done. And you're right, Darren. I don't know if I would have it in my top 3 or 5 with the GameCube because I fucking love the GameCube. But it's I don't know. I don't think I could rank my top 10 GameCube games and not have this game on the list. It's that good. It's fucking outstanding. It absolutely redeems Mario is Missing. Well, it doesn't redeem it, but it
we can
fucking
just call this Mario is Missing. Volume 2.
This is the good Mario is Missing.
For obvious reasons, they had to rebrand it.
Yeah,
because of the first one. So this was just we want to make a video game where Mario is missing. Are we going to call it Mario is Missing? No, we're going to have Luigi win a free mansion, no questions asked, and Mario is missing in the mansion. All right, sold.
Yeah.
My issues were all like nitpicky ones, right? They're just kind of, I get a little bit frustrated because it could have been perfect, but you take away those small nitpicky things. Still a really good game.
Outstanding game. So thank you to everyone that voted for this game in our Patreon poll. And fucking Darren, thanks for doing this, buddy. I don't think we're going to take as much shit for this as we did for Spyro Ripto's Rage. I think we're good this time. So
I stand by everything I said on Spyro Ripto's Rage.
Oh, fuck. Thanks for doing this, buddy. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. Darren, thank you so much for giving me a call and talking Luigi's Mansion into every single one of you nerds right now that listen to this episode. Maybe you voted for this episode on our Patreon poll, whatever. If you're hearing my voice in your head, thank you so much for letting me into your brain. I really, really appreciate the support. And fuck yeah. Thanks a lot. If you're enjoying it, if you like our podcast, if you like what I do, if you think, hey, I don't hate the sound of this guy's voice, maybe consider supporting us over on Patreon. It's only $2 to start. There's other tiers where you can get like exclusive access to like live streams and stuff like that. There's even a tier where you can sponsor an episode and pick the game we cover. And there's lots of shit over there. But it helps me out. It helps keeps the light on around here. It helps me produce all the contents that I churn out. You can write in and play one, remake one, erase one. You can join our Discord, blah, 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 blah. And don't forget that for December, 50% of my Patreon is being donated to the Stollery Children's Hospital with my 24-hour charity stream on December 18th and 19th. So it's you get some good, I get some good, the kids get some good, everyone gets some good. It's just good all around. Good stuff. So patreon.com/rememberthegame if you're interested. And frankly, more importantly this month, if you're interested in donating to my 24-hour charity stream, you can find all the information at rememberthegamepodcast.com. Anyone that donates at least $20 will be entered into draws for a game of their choice, some Remember the Game merch, or a chance to be my guest and join me here on an episode of Remember the Game sometime in the new year. So that'll do it for this week's episode. You guys are the best. Thank you all so much. I'll be back tomorrow with expansion pass number 89, which will be my Resident Evil Village spoiler-free review. I'll be back on Friday with Game Patch, where I break down all the biggest news in gaming over the last week. And I'll be back next week with a whole nother greasy, juicy fucking slab of video game podcast, because that's my life now. Thanks all. I'll talk to you all again soon. I'm going to shout out to some Patreons now. Cheers. Goodbye. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons, and I could not produce all the content I churn out every week without all of your support. The following people have supported us at the junior executive vice president level or higher at patreon.com/rememberthegame, and I'd like to take a moment to just thank all of them and mispronounce a bunch of their names because that's my shtick. It's kind of what I do. So a huge thank you to Dave, Makeshift Mallow Money, Joe Buck, Sharonic, Andre, Stupid Monkey, Michael Mathis, Joshua Shenfield, Jeffrey Mathis, Keegan his Stupid Arrow Handle, Dave McGee, DNA Gaming, Slick Rick, Doug Dorn, Charlie Madero, Scott V, Andrew Wright, Gary C, Kate Roberts, They Call Me Badger, Jordan, Fraser Burns, Lil Bunny Fufu 89, Angry Ticks, Dave Thompson, No One Cares, Tin Smasher, Wyman Brooks, Scott Brooks, Leon K, Stitch, Aaron Lawson, Matt McLean, Brian Ransom, Miles from BringBackRetro.com, Nathan Tremblay, A-Town, Andre SJ Flash, Tom Kite, Geek Life Radio, Morgan, Zane Donovan, Adam J, Ryan Kinchin, Mike Maloney, Christopher Russell, Very Cool Dude, Tim Rial, The Giraffe, G9PSX, Tim L, David Schnatterer, Raging Demon, Poops Loomis, Dana Wucherall, That One Kid Nick, Mad Shibs, Mercury 869, Derek Jane, Jesse Clark, Mfelf, Kayfabe 5150, TK Tonky Kong, Wolfgang Darren, Seriously Ron P, Sam Wright, Andy Hudson, Good A, Dane, Chris Copland, Mandingo 2021, Doogie, Matt McLean, Pizza Power, Too Loud for the Crowd, Trevor Sevenoaks, Ryan McCowan, Paul Zoe, Wolf Magic 21, Johnny CCDC, Joel LeBlanc, Squints, Tent Sparkster, Omega 88, Nathaniel Shelley, Explode Processing, Chowdy Lowdy, Dan Wagner, Candido, S2 Vaughn 5000, Titan 420, Jose E. Marco, Oprah's Iron Fist, Adam Fair, Russell Aldridge, Classic Crusade, Karth from KOTOR, Chance McCoy, Jeff Bergeron, Ian Watts, Joe Kirby, Captain N, Owen the Game Furchuck, Game Nomad Misi, Daniel, Astro Alpaca, you fuckers, Stu Bagaric, Eden Awaits 1981, Swanee, damn it, I was doing so good, and I tried to do the alpaca thing and fucked it all up. I'm going back to just saying it wrong. Tom Danks, John Woodruff, Inhuman Sumo, Chalupa Cabra, Rocker Dude, Mikey NL83, Just a Fish, Bagalazino, Noop Q, Hunky Canadian Bacon 69, Beth, Strife 89, Liam Denzalo, Spicy Mortician, Eric Chavinius, Holmes, Ryan Gibbons, Zach Shepard, Chris Dickin, Jay Hampton, Dylan Flora, Jackson M, Daja 1K1T, Clayton Robertson, Frosty Feet 492, Britt O'Neill, all the good names were taken, Hulk Hogan's brother, Chris Larkin, Austin Cook, Kyle Shreve, Matthew Salmon, Elijah Burns, Ocelot of Woe, Stephen Parnell, Jolt Addict 21, Aaron Price, Meat on the Bone, Dockaby, Tomicus, Sean Dillinger, Justin Zabraki, Frozen Interior, Ray San Wantongo, Brandon Basham, Zach Coiner, DBXJ, Ryan Shimmick, Jared Pierce, Steve Dalp, Michael Ford, Justin Vissers, Gannon 144, Phil McCracken, Double D, Sid's Good Leg, Trav H, Mizuru, Declan McGarry, Nicholas Chaffee, David Marcus, Dagger Disaster, Urias, Dr. Mario, Vaughn, Jordan Salm, Jacob Adams, Burnout Doug Kenny, Scott Graham, Tyler, and Brad Levron. Holy Christ, you'd think I'd be good at this by now. Thank you all so much. You guys are the best. I will talk to you all again soon. Cheers.